Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician, and I'm here to host the Market Buzz this morning. This show looks at weekly setups across the U.S. market. Using the tools available on StockCharts, we'll look for long timeframe trades. Please subscribe to my articles and Twitter feed for more information throughout the week. Okay, let's get into it. We got a few things going on. First of all, FANGs are breaking out this morning, so we want to talk about that. And then I'm going to go into using the SCTR because sometimes we don't talk about that wonderful indicator enough, and I want to explain why it's so wonderful. So I'm going to focus today on the SCTR. I think you'll find there's some value there. So that's what I want to help with today. So first of all, this is one of our producers' favorite stocks, and she just keeps making money with the thing, so I had to put it up on the screen. But it is a beautiful climber. That Starbucks chart is top right corner. I'm going to just quickly buzz through the FANG stocks here, and we've got Amazon. That looks like a clean breakout above this 1964. I mean, it broke out yesterday, but today it's confirming the breakout. You know, it's just that's a machine just heading higher, so that's a beautiful thing. We have our good friends Apple, and that chart, I think this is setting up as a, going to keep testing this 214, 210 level, and as it starts to break out of here, that should be a beautiful entry into that stock. So I think that looks okay. And again, I'm not thrilled on Apple's lack of product development, but I think their cash flow is just fine. Apple, let's go to Netflix. This is one of the ones that just keeps pausing at this level, and I don't know how it's going to get through it. Just sitting here trying to get through this 385, and maybe this was just a stop sweep this morning. Anybody who had a stop got stopped out. Now it can finally go higher. We'll see if that's the way that works out. Our good friends in the Google department. This stock finally getting back above the 200-day moving average. It's been beaten up for quite a while, and as you can see, very difficult to make money in this sideways trading range between 980 and 1300. It's a wide range if you're trading it, but if you've held it for a couple of years, you're back to where you started. So not great. And the Microsoft name is obviously fabulous. So that one just continues to go up and to the right. And I think, when you're getting breakouts on all of these stocks as a group, they're just setting up so well. We'll look at Facebook and just wrap it up there, but that's doing the same thing as Amazon, just breaking above prior highs. It's at new, it's a couple of weeks short of new 52-week highs, but it's essentially on its way higher. So all of these stocks are starting to run, but I really, when you're seeing this much breadth in the market, it's hard to argue with it. If all of these stocks fail to hold their breakouts, that's probably a good clue that something isn't right. But until that happens, I think we need to stay on that. I did mention the nat gas trade a couple of days ago. This one is an ultra nat gas trade, but you can see it's moving up relatively quick. And the main reason for this trade was that it was sitting near 10-year lows. It's about 5-year lows, but if you go back a long time, this is kind of a floor area for nat gas. And so this trade, even if it got up to here, that's a double kind of thing. So that's a pretty nice move. So nat gas is okay. What I want to talk about on the scanning is really simple scanning. We don't want to do anything. I think I've already updated this. Just check my syntax here. Yeah, there we go. So we want to keep scans fairly simple. I know a whole bunch of people have code after code after code, but to me, one of the things that you're looking for when you do a scan is what is in the area, not so much what is at a level. And one of the things as a non-member, you get to see the top 10 scooter rankings. The big thing to me is most of those have already run a long way. So one of the areas I like is this area between 70 and 80. And there's different ways to look at that, and I'm going to show you a couple of them right now. But the big thing to focus on is, just pick your country, set your volume levels. In Canada, this volume level would exclude a lot of stocks, so you'd make it lower. And then this just says, and the SCTR is greater than 70, and the SCTR is less than 80. Now, we're going to go to a chart, and I just want to show you on a chart. So let's go to Facebook. Let me just change my settings here so that the scooter ranking is separate. So what the scooter ranking does, just really quick for those that don't understand, we take a group of stocks. In this case, they're called the large cap stocks. And what we do with that group is we take all of the price action in that stock and we compare it to other peers. So we use 6 different measurements. These are all found under the Chart School tab up here for SCTR. And what we do is we calculate the percentage the stock is above the 200-day moving average. We calculate the 125-day rate of change. We calculate the percentage that it's above the 50-day moving average, the 20-day rate of change, I think it is. And then we calculate the RSI, 14-period RSI, and then we have a 3-period PPO, which is really an accelerant. The last two are accelerants. So the weighting is heavily on the 2 longer term timeframes, 30% and 30%, 15, 15, and then 5 and 5. And the idea behind this is that we're trying to find stocks that are moving up. So you're not going to have a high scooter ranking if you're well below the 200-day moving average. Now, if everything's well below the 200-day moving average, let's just take 2007 as an example, when everything's falling, you're still going to have stocks that could be below the 200-day moving average and have a high scooter ranking. And that's because they're performing better than their peers. But the single biggest gem of the scooter ranking, without question, compared to every other indicator I know of, is this is the only indicator that tells you how your stock compares to the rest of the stocks in its group. And so this basically says how does it compare to the S&P 500? Well, that's just a big broad average. But this is telling you that the price action in Facebook right now is better than 90% of the stocks based on the way we have set up our table. Now, on any given day, you could just say, well, there's other stocks that are moving better or whatever. We have a long-term average in there. So we're not trying to find the smoking gun for the hour. We're trying to find big long-term trends. And this scooter ranking, it got up above 75, pulled back, and now looks to confirm that. I particularly like when it does that sort of thing. That usually means it's got a little bit of runway. And I these tech stocks look great here. Looks like the Fed's going to give us a little bit of pause. So with all of that positive backdrop, and I've mentioned on my weekend market reviews, and hopefully you're catching those, all of those are found in the Canadian Technician blog now. So Commodities Countdown, we've pushed into the Canadian Technician. Everything is in one blog for you. But I have been pushing that, breadth is massive. It's really holding up well. And we have lots of, even if you go through on an industry group ranking system, they're pushing up to new highs. So there's lots of breadth here, and these stocks are just starting to break out. So as difficult as it seems to enter now, and I heard on the news this morning that I think it was Morgan Stanley has said at 3,000 the market is topped and they're going to move to cash or whatever. I think the problem with that is if the market's going to keep going up, you still have to follow along if you get the opportunity. Now, if all of a sudden these stocks all start to roll over, that tells us something else. But right now, in our scooter ranking, and just so you know, so if we had 1,000 stocks in the large cap group, to pick a number, 250 would be above 75, 250 would be between 50 and 75, 250. So it actually breaks them out and says which ones are the worst performers. So in an uptrend, a big uptrend, you could have a stock trending higher and it could have a low scooter ranking. And the reason for that is if everything's going up, now you want to know which ones are going up faster. So the scooter ranking, in my opinion, is one of the single best indicators to help tell you when a stock is outperforming its peers. And obviously, if it's outperforming its peers, all of the major institutional investors that are trying to get paid compared to the S&P 500, so if they outperform, that's part of their job. And if they underperform the S&P 500, they're probably fired. So the issue for them is always making sure they're in stocks that are outperforming the S&P 500. That sounds easy, but you don't want to outperform by 51% or 52%. You want to outperform as wildly as possible so that you can attract more investment into your firm. Okay, so we're going to take this simple scan and we're going to run it. Now, this scan, when we run it, again, always just hit the click check syntax box. And when you do that, what it's doing is it's checking to make sure all your brackets are right. And if, as an example, if we forget to put this bracket in here and we say check syntax, it'll say there are mismatched square brackets, make sure the number of brackets are, so this isn't something evil. You just go through and say, okay, there's a left, there's a right, left, right. We need a left here. Whoops. And we're good. And so then we say check syntax. And when you hit run, and I've already run this, so I'm just going to leave it. But, well, actually, I could run it. I've saved these into a file or into a chart list. So what we're looking at here is we're going to get 178 results. Now, if I just said, show me all of the SCTRs between 75 and 100%, it would actually give me a number that's quite large, like 590 or something like that. And the reason for that is we have three different groups of SCTRs. We have large, middle, and small, and it's going to give you the top 25% of each of those. So the real issue for me is that doesn't help me much. Now, it gives me a list of stocks that are outperforming. I want to know as they're starting to outperform. I want to know just as they're turning up. And so one of the things I think the scooter helps with, and if you continue to monitor the area between 70 and 80, you're always going to find stocks have to move through that level. So when you get these sorts, you can do a couple of things. Let's say you're only ETF investor. Well, you can use that for ETFs. If you're a large cap investor, you can use large caps. It all depends on your personal investing style as to what how you want to use this list. So you can even set it so it only scans for ETFs that are in here. And the way we would do that is we would just go down here and we would pick, and Scooter US add is greater than, and in this case we've said 70, right? So if we just make it Scooter ETF is greater than 70, it's only going to give us Scooter ETFs instead of large caps and small caps. So here's our scan results page. And so it's got that in here. And so now we've just got a list of ETFs. It all depends on how you want to work it. If you're a small cap investor, you might like this because they obviously move much more erratically than the large caps. They don't have the stability of ownership. But the gem behind the scooter ranking is finding all of these stocks that are just tweaked nicely. So if we just take this simple chart, and again, we're going to use weekly charts because that's what I like to look at. And we're going to go grab it. Now, these stocks can still wobble. I want to make that very clear. Oh, you know what? I didn't dump this into a chart list, so that's not going to work for us. Let me go back quickly. And okay, so here's our scan results, and we have to put them somewhere. So I'm going to available actions, replace a chart list, and I have a whole bunch of sort order ones, and I've got Martin and John set up on here. So we're going to dump these into Greg and whatever, preserve the sort order. It doesn't really matter. Preserving the sort order puts a ranking behind them so that when you look at them, you'll be able to pull them up in a specific order. Let's say the highest scooter ranking or the lowest scooter ranking, or by scooter category ETF or large, small, medium cap, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so now I've got this set up as a 5-year chart, and now I just want to apply this. Oh, I think I have to save that. And then I want to apply this style to all. And when we do that, we're going to be able to open up the view 10 per page, and they'll all have the same sort of format. So with that, we can now just go to view all. And the idea behind setting them all up the same is obviously to give you a common benchmark. But this, when I ran the scan, shows it at 70.8, and during the day this could change. But for the most part, we're up in the area. And what I find is just above the 70 level is where they start to break out. So we're going to kick away for a commercial break here, and we'll be back. And when we come back, I'll show you a couple of other scans I like.
Today's market volatility provides savvy traders and active investors with an abundance of profitable opportunities. At the Traders Expo Chicago, July 21st through 23rd, dozens of the most respected traders in the world, including Rick Santelli, John Najarian, Tom Sosnoff, Linda Rashke, and Ralph Akampora, will explain how they're adapting their strategies and share the specific trading opportunities they've identified in equities, commodities, forex, futures, and cryptocurrencies. Claim your free pass to join them at chicagotradersexpo.com.
Okay, and we're back. So now what I want to cover off is, in this particular case, rather than limiting it just to ETFs, I went to large caps and small caps. But what I want to show you is the benefits of using this type of uh, scanning tool. So what we're looking for is high scooter rankings to see if things are looking pretty good. And here what you see is the scooter ranking is having trouble staying above 75, and that's not a bad thing. As long as it's better than 50%, you're still outperforming. The real question, what you want to see, obviously, is that things continue to go higher. So let's say on this particular case that you buy the breakout and it starts to break down again. Well, I think at that point you just let somebody else own it. And the main reason for that is your full stochastics looks like it wants to turn down, and you want to only own things with strong scooter rankings. Now, again, I have a great friend living in Montana who does really nice work with the scooter, and she likes to take the top 3 stocks every month in the top 3 industry groups and just own those. And so she'll own 9 stocks, and at some time during the month, I think it's the middle of the month or whatever, she just goes in and refreshes her lists. And if some stock is moved out of the top performing category, she updates it. So quite simple, but you can use the scooter however you want. What I think is the real hidden gem here is when you just click on view all and start to run through these. Here's DocuSign. This chart looks fabulous, and I recently bought some property, and the realtor sends me a DocuSign. I go through it, I sign it all off. Then my wife gets a copy in DocuSign, goes through, signs it all off, and we all have a copy of a legal document that we've been able to sign without getting together, driving across, flying and driving to be able to buy the property or whatever, and you can do it all online. So this is just beautiful charts. Now here's Interactive Corp. What a beautiful uptrend. And scooter ranking is just pushing back up here. Again, it's been solid for 3 years. That's just a nice ride. Nothing wrong with that. Here's Kimberly-Clark working back up here. I'm not so sure that if all the FANG stocks are breaking out, that you want to be buying the defensive names here. But here's Haynes Celestial. This chart's just starting to turn up. Scooter ranking is sitting up at the top here at 70, and down at the bottom, the PPO is just turning up below 0. Now, whether or not you like this, whatever, again, it's a consumer staple. I think I'm more interested in what some of the growth stocks might be. Here's Whirlpool. We already looked at that one. But just as we roll through these, now, again, I've just set up this ranking however you want to do it. Now, in this case, here's 9 months for Owens Corning, and they make the insulation in housing and stuff like that. So it's trying to break out. If it struggles to break out here and rolls over at 0 on the PPO, I wouldn't want to own it. Scooter ranking briefly got above. Now, the one thing that I will say is it's common in a lot of cases where you'll see this kick up, pull back, and then restart again. And I actually find the restart to be a much better entry. So in this case, maybe it pulls back to the 10-week or the 40-week and then takes back off again. And that's where you really get your nice entry. Convertible securities ETF. This is just a slow riser. Gaming and leisure properties. This one just keeps pushing top right. What a beautiful chart. Really, really nice. Kimco Realty just breaking out to new 2-year highs. Slow, steady gainer. And as you work through these charts, again, you can sort them any way you want. So you could sort them by industry group very quick sort order that you can make. Now, one of the things that we've done here is we've looked at stocks that are sitting between 2 numbers, so sitting between 70 and 80. One of the scans I like to run is actually something that's moving up. And how do you write that scan? And that might be a little bit more informative. So we're just going to click over here, and I've got that scan set up for you. So in this particular case, Just check my syntax again. In this particular case, I've got a couple of simple things. I've made the country as the US, and then I wrote a whole story in here, but you don't need to read that right now. The point was that the scooter ranking crosses above 76, that's what the X means, or crosses above 78, or crosses above 80. And so what I'm trying to find is something pushing up. And so when I run that scan, it's going to give me, here's 149 stocks that are crossing up through that level across all different ranges. So I could do a couple of things. I could sort them by group type, or I could sort them by whatever. Let's pick industry, sector, and then group type. And by doing that, now I'm going to go down, and you go function right to the bottom. Oh, you know what I didn't do? My mistake, I didn't put it into a chart list yet. So let me go put it into a chart list, replace an existing chart list. And once you get it into the chart list, then you can start manipulating. So I'm going to call it Dire Straits or whatever, and preserve the sort order. Now I get in here, and again, we're going to sort it. We need to add a few columns here. I want to know the sector and industry. Actually, we don't need to know the sector. If we sort it by industry, that's going to work for us. And then we want to put, because they're all in the relatively tight scooter ranking, I don't think that matters. But I would like the industry group, which is this U level here, to show up. So I want to sort it by ETF, by size. So it's going to say ETF, large, small, medium, and then industry group. And so if I put the industry first and then do this, it'll at least help sort things for us. So now just briefly looking to the bottom of the page, oh boy, because I saved the sort order, I made a big mistake there. When I saved it into my chart, my scanning list, what I did, let's go back and run the scan again. This is just easier. Run the scan. It's going to come up with scan results. Now I want to replace a chart, and I don't want to preserve the sort order because I want to change it after. So I want to go get scanning Dire Straits, and we're going to dump it in there. And now I'm going to sort on industry ranking and then which group. And with that, I'm going to go to the bottom of the page very quickly and just hit number in sorted order. And by doing that, now I've got a group of stocks. All of these are moving up, but they're ranked. If I'm an ETF investor, they're all going to be first. And then if I want large cap stocks, they're all going to be next. And so let's go in here and just start to look. So here's the Amazon scooter ranking moving above 80. And again, when this big guy gets going, and where are we headed into? We're heading into school season, U.S. Thanksgiving and Christmas season. With all of that, that's typically a good time of year to look to Amazon. And July is when a lot of the strong consumer names break out. We've already seen names like Costco on the move. But this one is just starting to break out today. What a beautiful chart to start with. Now, again, if we want to look at these in 5-year chart instead of looking them on a daily basis, then I would just go down and hit apply style to all. And I might have to do one more thing here. We'll just see. So, okay, so we've got that. And now I can go view all. And I want to go down it made Amazon 48th on the list here. So I'm just going to go into these chart lists and get down to 480. And there's Amazon. And so now we can start. We're going to go through the large caps and just see which ones are breaking out. So this PPO is just turning up. This is just an absolutely beautiful chart for entry, taking off full stochastic, just going into overbought. And again, on a full stochastic on a weekly, it can stay up here for a year. So this is really a nice entry. And if it doesn't hold, just set your stop very close and let yourself out. Now, Martin Marietta, perhaps. This stock scooter ranking is holding up here. The stock's clearly trying to break through this 230 level. Here's industrial air chemicals, so they make helium and all that kind of stuff, welding gases and that type of thing. This chart's getting ready to move up, and again, the scooter ranking is just turning up. Maybe you decided that the PPO is so high you want to wait for a pullback to a better zone. It really depends on how you want to operate. And so again, if you're a large cap investor, these might be the stocks that are starting to tweak your needs. Um, and and again, these are just starting to turn up. So we're using this one indicator to help us. Now we could pile on a couple of other things. We could say we want the full stochastic to also be turning up or whatever, or the full stochastic has to be crossing 50. We could put in all kinds of parameters that would help us thin this out. But I think there's even help just going through to see how many sectors and industry groups are popping to the upside, and that it's probably, everything is going pretty well here. It's hard to say, okay, we'll call it top because everything's going well. That's not really how the market works. And if things are going to keep pushing higher through the summer, then we just want to stay on the trades. Okay, a lot of these are consumer staples. So this one was strong. And this is an interesting thing that I'd like to explain about the scooter. So it jumps up here and it gets really, really strong. And now it's been starting to underperform. And it's not huge, but it was up around the 90s. And now it's down, got as low as 60 something, and it bounces back up. To me, this is starting to show weakness. And what you might find is the chart starts to underperform now. And when whatever, you can stay in it, but if some sort of either relative strength line starts to break where it can't keep outperforming the S&P 500, or this big uptrend breaks, whichever one you want, you're going to probably need to figure out when to take profits. And a cracking scooter can be at least a reason to watch. So on this Abbott Labs, it was up here for 2 years, had a big dip in here. This would be hard for me because it got down to 30, and that would probably kick me out. But it looks like it's starting to break back out here. And as it broke through 80, this is continuing on its uptrend. And that's just a beautiful uptrend on that chart. Okay, Kinder Morgan, this stock's just pushing to new 2-year highs, just really starting to get going. So nothing wrong with that chart. This is TC Energy Corp, starting to break out to the upside here, new 5-year highs. Allstate Insurance, the insurance company's been doing great. Here's more insurance, Essex Properties. So again, we've grouped them by industry. So once you get into an industry group, you're going to see it. If you don't want to see more insurance, just keep scrolling. So here's Applied Materials. And obviously they're in the semiconductor space. This is just starting to get going again. And you can see it was weak for almost a year. Now it's starting to turn up. If this is going to start to go through 45, that's just very bullish, and you probably want to be on board. Here's Micron. Nice move, breaking this downtrend. Excellent place to get back on board. If you'd have joined the party back here, that was a 2-year run. It's taken a 1 year off, and the semiconductors are starting to return to the top. How good is that? That is something really, really nice. And then here's the Autodesk, and moving up to the top right here, we're getting into the software names. Fiserv, continuing to run extra space storage, really rocking here. So again, I think the scooter ranking is one of the simplest ways to look at the market. Really, really helpful. And a lot of times you'll find this 75 level starts to show off nice stocks. Now, again, let's go back and just quickly look at the scan that I did there. This was very simple. Scooter is crossing above 76. And when you use OR, that's the reason for this second bracket out here in the front. So you need to make sure that you've got that set up. So it's crossing above 76 or 78 or 80. Anyway, it's going to give you a group of stocks. You can group them by industry and start to see what's working. Hopefully that those clues there can help set you up, so at least you've got some scans to run with. And again, the big benefit there is it compares it against all of its peers, so it helps to show you how far the stock is moving. So thanks for taking the time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs live on Wednesdays and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time on StockCharts TV. Thank you. Bye-bye.